Good morning, everybody. My name is Julie O'Neill and I'm Chair of the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. I'm very delighted to be here with you all this morning on this important occasion in this very historic venue, where hopefully looking around the ceiling the stars are aligned for a good future for our planet and for Ireland. It's a great privilege for me to be here as Chair of the Sustainable Energy Authority to assist the Minister in launching Ireland's transition to a low-carbon energy future. And as somebody said to me on the way in, I think the secret is in the title. That transition is something that's hugely important to us all. And while the trajectory set out in this paper stretch out to the year 2100, the focus is immediately on the period for 2015 to 2030. And we look forward to hear what the Minister has to say about it. Just to give you an idea of the sequence of events this morning, we're going to be hearing first from Aisling O'Boyle, who's a student and advocate for tackling climate change, who will give us her perspective on energy policy. Then from the Minister, who will launch the white paper, and then from Mark Griffin, the Secretary-General of the Department of Communications, Energy and Natural Resources, who will give an overview of the paper. I've been specifically asked to mention that for those who are interested in tweeting about today's event, if you'd include #EnergyWhitePaper in your tweets, that will be useful. For all of us here, and for me personally, this is an important day. The white paper sets out a vision and a framework to guide energy policy between now and 2030. It follows from the previous energy white paper, Delivering a Sustainable Energy Future for Ireland, which was published in 2007. And around that time, I was Secretary-General of the Department of Transport and very much involved in looking at the implications that would have for our department and for transport policy generally. The development of this latest policy framework began in May 2014 with the publication of the Green Paper on Energy Policy, which also highlighted policy developments in progress in the period from 2007 to 2014, which was obviously a very difficult and challenging period for Ireland in every sense. And the publication was followed by a period of extensive consultation, of which many of those here today participated. In fact, many people have commented to me that it was probably the most extensive consultation process on the preparation of any white paper in the history of the state. And today's publication is the culmination of this work. I heard the Minister say on Morning Ireland earlier that he'd hoped that every citizen of the country ultimately would read it. Certainly it's written in a very digestible form, but it will take time to digest and will take time to translate this bigger picture that it sets out into the actions that all of us will take. What I would like to do is to start by inviting Aisling O'Boyle to join us and to speak. And I think it's really telling that at the heart of this climate change and the impact that we'll have for generations to come is the perspective of the younger generations. And in the Sustainable Energy Authority, we have a number of programmes involving schools and students, and it's always exciting and heartening to see the way they're thinking about the future from their perspective. The Minister recently received an inspiring letter on the subject from Aisling, who's a student in Trinity and an advocate for tackling climate change now. And he invited Aisling to share her perspective on the wider issues this white paper will tackle. So I can hand you over to Aisling. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia, for that kind introduction, and thank you, Minister White, for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Aisling O'Boyle. I am 19 years old, and I'm a political science and geography student in Trinity College. I have always had an interest in social justice and development, and have a huge interest in climate change, specifically climate justice. The global nature of climate change and the lasting impacts of our inaction make it the biggest challenge society has ever had to face. My first interest in issues of social justice and human rights started when I was 5 years old and the Throker a Lenten campaign poster hung on my kitchen wall. The poster featured a girl about my age standing outside her house. Like me, she had a mum, a dad, a brother, and lots of cousins. The difference was that she couldn't go to school. Her home was not secure, and there was no guarantee there would be food on the kitchen table. Why was I so much luckier than she was? Simply because I was born in Ireland and she was born in the Philippines. At age 5, I couldn't quite comprehend the difficulties she faced in her daily life or the intricacies of inequality, but I do remember feeling it was unfair that she did not have the same opportunities and luxuries that I did. You may be wondering where climate change and the new energy policy fits into all of this, but first, I need to ask where that little girl is today. Typhoon Haiyan in 2013 probably destroyed her home, while my kitchen wall that the poster of her hung on still stands. Her family may have suffered greatly during the typhoon. It is almost certain that she has experienced food insecurity multiple times in her life, and she may have suffered violence or sexual assault during her time in a refuge centre following one of the many disasters the Philippines has faced. As you can see, the disparity between my life and her life continues to grow, and unless we curb carbon emissions and keep global temperature rises well below 2 degrees Celsius and hopefully below 1.5 degrees, this disparity will only increase. Closer to home, in recent weeks we have observed the devastation that is linked to rising sea levels and rising sea surface temperatures. The frequency and intensity of floods, storms, and severe weather events continues to increase. The difference in Ireland is that we have the resources to prepare for and respond to the worst effects of these events. During my 13-year membership of the Irish Girl Guides, my interest in development issues has grown, and now as a unit leader, I try to instill this passion in my own guides, who are all aged between 10 and 12. Last month, after learning about the COP21 climate conference, the girls decided they needed to do all that they could in order to ensure a strong agreement was reached at COP21. One way we decided to do this was to write letters to our local TDs and the relevant ministers. Minister White is our local TD, and as Minister for Energy, we recognise that he has an important influence on Irish climate policy and the new energy policy. I wish to thank him for coming to visit our unit and hearing the voices of these young girls and making it known to them that their opinions do matter. We asked him and all of Ireland's representatives to play their part in crafting a progressive, just and impactful agreement to combat climate change. The World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts is a global movement of 10 million girls and young women, all of whom are concerned about their environment and their future. As a member of this organisation, I am concerned not only for my own future, but for the future of all of my guiding sisters. I believe we must change the way we think so that we can change the way we act. We need to stop thinking about ourselves as individuals and start thinking about ourselves as citizens of the earth. Climate change affects us all, no matter how wealthy. As a developed country, however, we have a significant advantage. We have resources available to us to adapt to the impacts of climate change and also the innovative capacity to become a leader in green energy. We have agreed to the Paris Agreement. Now we must show that we mean it. We have a long history of being known as one of the most generous countries. Now we must demonstrate that we are and comply with Article 11 to support capacity building in developing countries. Ireland is a hub of technology, research, innovation and development. Let us use these skills to support Article 10 and improve renewable energy technology so that the emission targets set out in the COP21 agreement and in our own intended nationally determined contributions can be met, if not surpassed. However, we are not just a country of generosity and innovation. We are a country of young people. The link between climate change, renewable energy, and intergenerational equality is therefore extremely important in the Irish context. My generation will be the first to pay the price if your generation fails in its responsibilities on climate change and climate justice. The decisions you make, and which all of us make, as citizens and as a society, about Ireland's energy future will determine my generation's future. Remember that the majority of our lives are not yet lived. To have a future, our greatest resource is not coal, gas or oil, but ourselves. thousands of young people in Ireland and millions more across the world are continuing to do our very best to create a carbon-free Ireland and a carbon-free world that is safe for all of us and for generations to come. But we cannot do it alone. We need your generation to do your very best as well. Thank you.
Well done, Aisling, on that very timely reminder of the responsibility of those of us who are in the older generations have to leave the world a better place for you, and we will do our best to deliver on that. Can I call now on the Minister, Alex White TD, to launch the White Paper? Minister, the time of this launch I think is very appropriate, coming just after the COP21 negotiations in Paris and the historic accord that's involved there. And I know it's always tempting with any of these issues to look at the glass either half empty or half full. And I think over the last few days, I've read many, many articles and myself have struggled with trying to decide whether the outcome of COP21 is the best thing that's ever happened to the planet or hasn't gone nearly far enough. But what I do feel is that it's a really important step in the right direction. And I feel this particular White Paper is also a really important step in the right direction in setting out a trajectory in the future. So I look forward to hearing you formally launch it here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie. But let me begin by thanking Aisling for your very inspiring words here this morning. When I met you and the members of the Centenary Girl Guides last month, you asked me to basically to bring a message to Paris, bring a message, the message of change and the change that we need to bring that over to Paris for my short visit there. And I was happy to do that. And I think your words are a reminder to us of the high stakes involved in getting our energy policy right and of the responsibility that we have to your generation and to future generations. And I thank you for that. Let me also record my thanks to Julie O'Neill, Chairperson of the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, for agreeing to participate and to chair this morning's event. I also want to share my appreciation for the work that's been done by the staff of my department's Energy Division. Your skill, your experience, insights, professionalism, good humour, have been instrumental in producing the important document that we are publishing here this morning. And I know that you will be equally committed to its implementation. During the process, I have been advised by the members of the Energy Policy Advisory Group, which I established in September 2014. The members of the group are, well, I don't mind if you have the sign, but if you could mind not disrupting the meeting, you can have the sign over here.
Stop building wind turbines.
That's fine, you can have your sign, but
Stop building wind
yeah,
turbines.
but the people can't see me.
Convert money point instead.
Yeah, would you mind just holding the sign over to the side?
220 targets in one step.
Okay.
We can reduce
Folks, would you agree? Can I just ask the audience? Can I ask the audience? Would you agree that they should have the sign over on the side? Okay, could we do that? You can have your sign over there, but please don't disrupt the meeting. You can make your point without disrupting the meeting. Okay. So just to return to what I was saying about the Energy Advisory Group, the members of that group are Professor John Fitzgerald, formerly of the ESRI, Helen Donoghue, Fellow of the Institute of International European Affairs and formerly of DG Energy at the European Commission, and Brian Motherway, now Head of Energy Efficiency at the International Energy Authority. And I would like to extend my warm thanks to each and every one of those three members of the advisory group. Above all, let me acknowledge the contribution that has been made by so many people who are in this room and who are not on the stage. I want to thank, in particular, if I may, my colleague and friend Pat Rabbitt, my predecessor in this position, who started this process moving with the publication of a green paper. I want to thank Pat for starting this work, and it was my great privilege to be in a position to finish it. That's the white paper. This policy document is the result of extensive consultation over the last 18 months or so. We have experienced an engagement of exceptional detail and quality. So while I don't expect everyone here to agree with everything in the document, I think I can say with confidence that this publication draws on the insights, the concerns and the ambitions of all the stakeholders who are active in the energy debate. We have strived to ensure that the White Paper will be a signal to even more of our citizens that they should and that they can become involved in this important debate and become agents of change. As Julie has said, today's publication is the first post-COP21 expression of the practical work we intend to do in the energy sector to meet the ambitions set out in the historic agreement that was reached in Paris last weekend. The White Paper represents a first. The first time that an Irish government as a whole has pointed the way to the eventual elimination of fossil fuels from our energy system. We can only achieve this by democratising energy policy and its implementation, because meeting the challenge of global warming can no longer be confined to the realm of international treaties or government decisions. It will be about the way you heat your house or business, reassessing how you travel from A to B, participating constructively in debates and decisions, sometimes difficult decisions, about the infrastructure needs of a low-carbon Ireland, aggressively cutting out waste and investing in more efficient energy use, and encouraging our research community, scientists, entrepreneurs, and indeed our local communities to seize the employment and business opportunities that will come as new low-carbon and no-carbon technologies develop and emerge. This White Paper maintains the three core pillars of Ireland's energy policy, namely sustainability, security of supply, and competitiveness, leading to affordable energy. It sets a course for an energy sector where the state will provide the supports that enable consumers to become active energy citizens. Our energy system is going to change from one that is almost exclusively led by government and utilities. It will instead become one where individuals and communities are agents of change in the way that Ireland generates, transmits, stores, conserves, and uses energy. In over 90 actions, the White Paper sets out how the energy transition will see accelerated and diversified renewable energy generation and a renewed impetus on energy efficiency. This will be facilitated by strong regulation, effective markets, appropriate infrastructure, and deeper cooperation with our partners in the North and Northern Ireland and in the European Union. As I have repeatedly said during the consultation that has brought us to this day, our commitment to a sustainable energy system comes with a pledge to all our people, our communities and businesses, and to the people who provide energy to our homes and workplaces. We will maintain stability, affordability, and security of supply as we make this transition to a low-carbon energy future. Our policy framework gives a new impetus to energy efficiency, which will be at the centre of our energy transition. New technologies like smart meters, heat pumps, and mobile connectivity will allow citizens to boost their own efficiency and save money by managing their energy consumption. For its part, government will reduce barriers to the installation of energy efficiency systems in homes, businesses, and public places. We will also accelerate the development and diversification of renewable energy generation. Renewables, as you know, currently account for almost 23% of our electricity generation. Ladies and gentlemen, this demonstrates real progress and it has been achieved more cost effectively than in almost any other European country. But eventually, we will need to generate 100% of all our energy consumption from clean sources. Onshore wind will continue to make a significant contribution. But the next phase of our energy transition will see the deployment of other technologies like solar, offshore wind, and ocean technologies as they mature and become more cost effective. As the International Energy Agency acknowledges, there will continue to be a need for fossil fuels, particularly gas, to meet our energy needs well into this century. But in the course of the transition, we will gradually reduce our dependence on the fossil fuels that currently dominate our energy mix. The White Paper reaffirms an evidence-based approach to policy development and implementation, which will provide the confidence and certainty that investors need. It places an emphasis on innovation as one of the central planks of energy policy. And Ireland is so well placed to make further economic and business advances through our many research institutes and facilities are drawing on their work, because so many technology companies, large and small, indigenous and foreign-owned, are located here. So I think the energy transition will create lasting business and employment opportunities for existing players and for new entrants. And we are committed to supporting those businesses, workers, and communities who will make the transition away from older energy technologies and move in the direction of new jobs, new technologies, and new opportunities. We will not lose sight of the need to minimize and control costs for households who expect affordable bills and protection from energy poverty, or for industry, which needs a competitive and job-friendly business environment. Importantly, the White Paper also offers industry and all stakeholders the opportunity to contribute to policy development and implementation, including through a new National Energy Forum, which will seek to maximise consensus on the measures needed to decarbonise our country. I believe that all of us want to safeguard our environment for future generations, just as we all want and expect a secure supply of affordable energy. Making this happen will require us to change and to work together, drawing on all our human goodwill and ingenuity to expedite this transition. The White Paper provides a framework to enable each and every one of us to play our part in building a low-carbon future, which is one of the most important and ambitious projects of our age. It's a vision that can and must engage every energy citizen, every energy community, and every stakeholder in our energy future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Minister, thank you for that introduction to the White Paper. I was very struck by the fact that at the time that the last White Paper was published, the issue of the sustainability of our energy future wasn't necessarily at the forefront of people's minds. The case hadn't been fully made or it hadn't been fully understood. When I recently took over as chair of the Sustainable Energy Authority, I was struck by how far the debate has moved on. And the debate now focuses not so much on the challenge and the target we ultimately have to achieve, which ultimately has to be a full decarbonisation of our energy systems, but the how we get there and what are the range of technologies that might be available to us and when and how they will work. And I think the emphasis that you've placed in this White Paper on the role of the energy citizen and the engagement of stakeholders and communities, albeit we know how difficult and challenging that is for everybody, is a very important one, because at the end of the day, as I think Aisling has also highlighted, this is not just about what governments do, it's not just about what policy papers set out, it's not just about what agencies like my own do, it's what each individual citizen in this country does in a small way, from my smallest grandchild right up to the oldest in the community to contribute to this. Could I hand over to Mark Griffin now, who's the Secretary General of the Department, and ask Mark to talk us through some of the headlines of the White Paper. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Julie. I suppose the first challenge for me as Secretary General of a department that also has responsibility for the digital economy is to figure out how to work the slides. So let me just, got it, okay. I suppose it's fair to say that the Minister has been driving us very hard over the last few months to deliver on the White Paper. And more importantly, once the White Paper is delivered and launched, to implement it. And we're used to hearing challenges of that description from politicians, but I have to say, I listened very closely to what Aisling had to say in her presentation, and hearing from her the challenge from her age group, from the girl guides and the people that she represents. I have a son and a daughter, one slightly younger than you, Aisling, and one slightly older than you, but really the transition in large part is actually going to be down to your age group, so no pressure. I have the job over the next 15 minutes or so to compress 120 pages of a White Paper into something meaningful. I'll focus therefore on some of the key contextual pieces and the more important actions that we will be rolling out. So just to start with the timeline, and Julie mentioned a tweet that was put up last night, which said that the White Paper was easily the most consulted on document in the history of the state, ! Now I couldn't figure out for a while what the exclamation mark meant because there wasn't a smiley face after it, but as a department and the Minister who has invested so much time over the last 18 months on meeting groups, on holding seminars, on engaging in a very extensive public consultation process, we would actually hold out the fact that this is one of the most consulted on documents in the history of the state as a badge of honour. We took a very deliberate decision to prepare the White Paper with the benefit of extensive public consultation and stakeholder consultation to understand fully the perspectives of citizens on what the direction of travel to a low-carbon energy system should look like and how they could shape it. As I said, we published a Green Paper in May last year. It started a 2-month public consultation process. The Green Paper sought views on 6 priority energy policy areas: empowering energy citizens, markets and regulation, planning and implementing essential energy infrastructure, ensuring a secure energy mix, putting the energy system on a sustainable pathway, and driving economic opportunity. 1,250 written submissions, and on top of that, over 1,200 people attended the seminars that were held on the various priorities and the forum hosted by the Minister in June of this year. So just a small bit then about the context of the White Paper, and that's dealt with comprehensively in Chapter 2 of the document and was covered in the Minister's speech. Just to recap, we have very clear international climate change obligations underpinned by the momentous agreement that was reached at COP21 last weekend. We have existing EU and climate obligations out to 2020, so our immediate focus while looking out to 2030 will be on what further needs to be done on the 2020 targets over the next 5-year period from 2015 to 2020. We're also planning at national EU level for the period 2021 to 2030. An individual 2030 targets for Member States required to achieve the binding EU-wide target of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions of at least 40% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels will be agreed in the coming months. And we don't underestimate the challenge that lies ahead on that front. As well as addressing our climate change obligations, security of supply of energy is also a critical component of the White Paper against the backdrop of Ireland importing 85% of all energy in 2014. And as the Minister spoke earlier, I mean, our target for 2020 is 16% of energy from renewables. If you do the sums, that means that there was still 84% to be provided from fossil fuels. So we have a very fundamental transition over the period to 2030 and out to 2050, moving through the fossil fuel agenda where coal and peat are still big components of our energy mix, out to a situation where by 2050 we'll have between 19 and 30% of our energy supplied from fossil fuels. So a very, very fundamental transformation required in that period. So that's the context against which we're operating. Just to say something briefly about the principles that guided the development of the white paper. First of all, the citizen will be at the centre of the transition to the transition over the next 15 years. And the Minister has been very strong on this in terms of...
We cannot generate 37% of our energy from wind. It's impossible.
Look, we might have a conversation later on, but there are an awful lot of people here in the audience who actually want to hear a perspective. The transition will be underpinned by policy and regulation that is stable and predictable. Policy will seek to achieve optimum benefits at least cost while recognising that decarbonisation will both incur costs and deliver benefits. Policy measures will be evidence-based and subject to rigorous analysis and appraisal prior to being implemented. And new technology services, energy network architectures and community-based energy initiatives will emerge to facilitate and drive the transition. Energy citizens. The transition will see the energy system change from one that is almost exclusively government and utility-led to one where citizens and communities will increasingly be participants in renewable energy generation, distribution and energy efficiency. The development of the White Paper revealed a wide citizen and community desire to be consulted on and participate in Ireland's energy transition and the development of energy-related projects. The White Paper therefore includes a series of actions to ensure that information is provided to citizens and to widen the level of consultation and opportunity for participation. It recognises that meaningful public consultation and engagement by government and infrastructure developments are prerequisites for the successful achievement of the energy transition. And we all accept that there are difficulties and concerns amongst communities around the issue of energy infrastructure provision. I had a conversation with one of the large energy companies over the last few weeks. I had the opportunity to visit one of their wind energy sites. And I said as a department, and I know I speak on the Minister's part when I say this, we want to see best practice in terms of early public engagement, communication with local communities, local benefit and sound management of environmental and planning considerations to become common practice right across the industry. As the Minister said, one of the key commitments in the White Paper is to establish a National Energy Forum, modelled on the National Economic Dialogue which took place in July of this year. The National Energy Forum will meet periodically to consider evidence-based inputs on the challenges arising from the energy transition outlined in the White Paper. And we envisage the first National Energy Forum taking place in Q3 of next year. Just in terms of the mechanics of the forum, the intention is to invite representatives of community and environmental groups, politicians from government and opposition, as well as business, unions, research institutions, and the academic community to participate in the forum with a view to maximising and maintaining consensus on the broad policy measures required to meet existing and emerging challenges. The forum will have a respected independent chair and rapporteur. It will also work to stimulate constructive and informed national debate on energy-related issues. It goes without saying that energy efficiency and renewable energies will be fundamental to the transition. And these key areas are dealt with comprehensively in Chapter 5 of the White Paper. Improving energy efficiency is critical. Renewable energy will also play a central role in the transition with an acknowledgement that a diverse range of renewable technologies will be required for electricity, heat and transport. And as you're aware, there are two public consultations underway at the moment on a further renewable support system and in relation to the renewable heat incentive. 444 million will be spent on energy efficiency and renewable energy programmes over the 6-year period of the capital plan, which was published by government in the last few months. We are committing about 14 million additional in 2016 for energy efficiency and research compared to 2015, leading to total exchequer spend next year of 72 million. And this leaves aside altogether the additional investment that this leverages to the grant schemes and the investment in energy efficiency by businesses and the energy companies. In terms of the specific actions we see on the energy efficiency side, these include the development of affordable financing options for domestic energy efficiency, the introduction of a comprehensive and sustained information campaign and more advisory support for consumers to address the barriers to consumer decision-making on energy efficiency, strengthening building regulations for the residential sector with a focus on energy efficiency, heating and lighting, increasing the scope of SEAI programmes to support community energy efficiency projects and facilitate the development of community networks, ensuring the SEAI continues to build on the excellent work that they do already in providing advice on energy efficiency and technical support to businesses, and publication of a public sector energy efficiency action plan in early 2016. Looking at renewable energy, actions that are included in the white paper include the introduction of a new support scheme for a range of renewables in the Res-E sector from 2016, which I've just mentioned, publication of a renewable electricity policy and development framework to underpin planning and development of larger scale renewable electricity generation development on land, and we hope to do that very, very soon. The introduction of a renewable heat incentive in the non-emission trading scheme from 2016, and development of a policy framework to encourage the development of district heating. We also need to work hard in relation to the use of renewable energy in the transport sector, and again we've included a suite of actions in the white paper. These include supporting transport modal shift through better alignment of land use and transport planning and a continuation of the smarter travel programmes, supporting the adoption of electric and gas vehicles through grants and tax relief, and supporting the deployment of sustainable biofuels through increases to the biofuels obligation scheme. Regulation, markets and costs. One of the things that we have stressed right throughout the course of the development of the white paper is the need for certainty and stability. Those kind of concepts are a bit incongruous when we're talking about certainty and stability at a time when we're talking about turning the energy system on its head, but I believe that they can achieve and will have to be achieved because a stable regulatory environment is really, really important for investor certainty. So stable, transparent, evidence-based, independent regulation is essential to facilitate competition, to create a climate for investment and ensure the costs of capital and network costs are kept as low as possible. Proper functioning of energy markets in accordance with the internal energy market and energy union objectives are also priorities. We are therefore moving to build on the success of the SEM, which has operated very, very effectively since 2007 by implementing ISEM, the new market design by 2017, in collaboration with our colleagues in the Northern Ireland authorities. So key additional actions in these areas include the promotion of further interconnection between Ireland and EU member states as part of a regional energy market, a review of the legal and institutional framework for the regulation of electricity and natural gas markets, including the CERS mandate in line with ongoing government economic regulation requirements, publication by the middle of next year of an overview of the legislative work programme for the regulation of the electricity and gas markets, and continuing to engage with the EU in its review of the wholesale electric market design. Let me turn briefly to the issue of energy costs. The price of energy is primarily determined by the market. Irish energy prices are, however, influenced by the country's scale and demography and the fact that we are relatively weakly interconnected. Having said that, government has a responsibility through regulation and policy measures to ensure that citizens and businesses are protected from unnecessarily high energy costs. The white paper is clear that policy-related costs will be minimised as far as possible, and the policy choices will be evidence-based with a focus on competitiveness, cost benefit, security and sustainability. We will ensure that adequate safeguards are in place to protect people at risk from energy poverty. A new national affordable energy strategy to be published in early 2016 will contain a new methodology for measuring and reporting energy poverty, actions to improve energy efficiency in the rental sector, measures to ensure better quality service to energy customers, and really importantly, and I hope something that will work through the pilot scheme and become embedded in energy and health policy, a new pilot scheme for deep energy upgrades for people suffering from certain chronic health conditions. And we've put an awful lot of work into this particular aspect with the Department of Health over the last number of months. The SER also has an important statutory responsibility to protect the interests of consumers and ensure that prices are fair and reasonable. There are a number of actions that fall to be delivered by the SER, including consumer protection and market monitoring, publishing an assessment of the development of competition in retail markets, publishing advice on reducing energy bills, and publishing details of supplier compliance with consumer codes and requirements. And the legislative and resourcing support required for the SER to push ahead with these initiatives will be provided. So let me just say something about the next steps. We set out at Annexes A and B of the White Paper the deliverables that we intend achieving over the next year, and at a high level, issues that require attention over the next 5 years. The Department will turn its attention now to the detailed implementation plan to deliver on the White Paper actions. What I can say at this stage is that by the end of 2016, we will have published a development framework for renewable electricity, identifying the areas of the country best suited for the development of large-scale renewable technologies. And as I said, the aim is to publish this imminently and certainly by the end of the year. The Energy Research Strategy Group report. A public sector energy efficiency action plan setting out how the public sector will reduce energy usage. A new affordable energy strategy. The final bioenergy plan. A new support scheme for renewable energy, and a renewable heat incentive, which, like the renewable energy support scheme, is currently undergoing a series of consultations. I'm not sure whether it's the right, but I'm starting to sweat now when I've read out all the list of things that need to be done over the next 12 months. We will publish annual progress updates on implementation of the White Paper. The National Energy Forum will also provide a key input into the monitoring of progress of the White Paper. In addition, a comprehensive review will be carried out every 5 years, with the first comprehensive review to be undertaken in 2020. In fairness, the White Paper is far more comprehensive than I can do justice to in this short presentation. There are a number of areas that are dealt with comprehensively in the report around energy security and innovation, which I have not touched on, but as I say, they are comprehensively dealt with in the report because they are critical components to the transition. Before I finish, I want to thank the Minister for the personal drive he is showing in pushing the White Paper over the line. You have really devoted a lot of your personal and political capital in delivering on this White Paper. We've worked very close as well with your political advisors in the last few months, and they've certainly had a very collaborative working arrangement with staff in the department. You've put up to us in the department in terms of the level of ambition of the White Paper, and we absolutely look forward to the challenge of delivery. I want to sincerely thank my colleagues in the department who have put so much into this, both personally and professionally. The hard work, creativity and forbearance under sometimes challenging circumstances reflect all that is good about public service, and we've seen that in spades with my colleagues in the department over the last number of months. And to everyone in this room and others who have been involved at various stages, the department looks forward to working with you in progressing this project, which will impact on every citizen, home and business in this country. Thank you.
Mark, thank you for that overview of the contents of the White Paper. No, thank you, thank you. It just leaves it to me now to conclude proceedings for this morning. There's a lot to digest in this white paper. It's easy to see it in some respects as soft focus, as being an overview, as being summary, as being highlights, but there's a lot of detailed content in it. From Sustainable Energy Authority's point of view, we stand ready to play our part. This sets a very important backdrop for us, along with COP21, as we go about preparing our own strategy for the next 5 years. And it's really welcome timing from our point of view, because it allows us to get on with preparing that strategy. We stand ready to play our part in two respects. We'll do what we can to deliver sustainable energy through efficiency measures, with a particular focus on the fuel poor, on building better energy communities, and on working with businesses to exploit the very real potential for business in Ireland. But we also very much welcome the emphasis in this white paper on evidence-based policy. Our job, part of our job, is to produce the hard research and analytic evidence which enable the right choices to be made, because the wrong choices are going to pose problems for us all. So can I thank you all for coming here this morning? Can I commend you that you read the report in detail, as I certainly will myself, and as we look to see what implications it has for all of us? And can I particularly welcome the commitment that there has been already to community engagement around this, and the commitment that there is to set up new measures for continued engagement, and in particular the establishment of a National Energy Forum, in which we also look forward to participating. Thank you all very much.